I want to bring in now Congressman Jim Himes, I should say, pardon me. He's a Democrat from Connecticut, and he's also a member of the House Intelligence Committee, a key post there. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. And I want to talk to you first about what we just heard. Thank you. What we just heard Barbara Starr talk about, which is the Pentagon now saying that there is an Iraqi and Kurdish military force of 20 to 25,000. This is being prepared to retake Mosul in perhaps April, perhaps May. Why is the Pentagon talking about a military action before it's happened? And I'm asking you that because some critics are suggesting that this isn't necessarily about psyops. This may be about politics. What do you say?
Well, I certainly think it's a roll of the dice. Look, obviously signaling your intentions to the enemy is an unorthodox way of approaching this. But remember, one of the battles that is being fought right now, metaphorical battles anyway, is the battle for recruits. You know, the more that disaffected young men, largely young men around the world or even in places like Turkey, think that there's a high probability that if they go to Mosul or if they go to northern Syria that they are likely to wind up dead. That's not going to dissuade all of them, but it's going to dissuade some of them. But it is a real gamble here. You know, look, we've got some experience with this, and we know two things. One, the Iraqi army has not exactly distinguished itself in the last year with them, you know, as a fighting force. And remember, we did this once before. You know, fighting force in the world, the United States Marine Corps had a rough time retaking the city of Fallujah in Iraq many years ago from a similar band of terrorists. And of course, there's nothing uglier and more difficult than door-to-door urban fighting. So this is a bit of a gamble that the Pentagon is taking. Okay,
so you say it's a bit of a gamble. Do you think that, certainly I think our expectation is with some of these recruits, is that they are inspired to die for a cause? So isn't there also an argument to be made that telegraphing or saying outright that this force is going in to retake Mosul, that it might actually inspire some young people to join up and fight with ISIS?
Look, there's no doubt that some of the people that are part of ISIS, some of the people that are recruited, are so out there, so on the fringe, that they might actually move towards their own deaths or towards a suicide mission. We see that, but I don't think that's the majority of people. And obviously, if you can take some people and keep them away, that's a good outcome. But look, at the end of the day, you know, most of these people are making a rational calculation, even if some of these people are really, truly seeking martyrdom or whatever it is that they seek.
The president has laid out a plan, Congressman, to win or attempt to win the hearts and minds and to deter people from joining up with ISIS. But you said that you fear there will be little discussion of a long-term strategy to stop terrorism at its source. What you heard yesterday from the White House, does it do what you think needs to be done?
Well, it's a very small part of it. And yes, I have said over and over again that we spend in the United States Congress so much time talking about exactly how we're calibrated militarily and, you know, through the use of our intelligence community to go after these terrorists. And in fact, we're pretty good at that through the various means that we have of taking out their leadership. But very rarely does the Congress of the United States sit back and say, wait a second, what are the larger structural reasons that terrorism and that violence is flourishing in the Middle East? Why are states failing? You know, why did Libya come apart at the seams and is now a failed state where ISIS is showing up? You know, why is it that the entire northern half of Iraq decided to go with a bunch of murderous terrorists instead of actually, you know, working with their own national army? You know, what motivates a young man in Cairo to decide that instead of, you know, living a middle-class, small business lifestyle, they're going to go sign up with ISIL? Those are deep and profound questions, and if we don't get to them, and by the way, this has to do with, you know, it has to do with failed states and people feeling like they don't have either economic or political opportunity. It has to do with, you know, imams, a small number of them, preying on young men and vulnerable young men. But if we don't address those issues, 30, 40 years from now, we will still be talking about, is it drone strikes, is it boots on the ground? And so I think the president's discussion of the last 3 days is important, but it's a very, very small part of the bigger picture.
Real quick, before I let you go, Congressman, fascinating personality profile coming out from the U.S. intelligence community of the head of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, suggesting he's headstrong, he's a religious zealot, and he has an apocalyptic vision. What does the profile tell you about ISIS's motives?
Well, you know, there's no question, and there's a real discussion happening right now in the media and amongst academics about exactly who these people are. And quite candidly, you know, right out of the box, I think at the very highest levels, including the president, we didn't have a particularly good finger on the pulse of what this organization was. You know, the president's unfortunate comments about this sort of being the JV team to Al-Qaeda, you know, that obviously turned out not to be the case. And so understanding who these people are, and though I think we're spending too much time on this, you know, how do they relate to Islam is an important conversation, because yes, the leadership are these apocalyptic, you know, insane's the wrong word, but people who think that they're bringing about end of times, and we need to understand how we can make them look wrong in that religious interpretation. Look, let's push them back. Let's show the world and the Islamic world that we can collectively beat these guys, that they are in fact a band of ideologically motivated criminals, and the recruiting will begin to be a lot less successful than it has been.
And that is the struggle we're seeing now from Washington. Congressman Himes, thanks so much for being with us. John?